Ladies and gentlemen, Armidale Skeptics in the Pub is here on the Skeptic Zone. Yay! Okay. Oh, sorry, that didn't record.
Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 813 for the 5th of May, 2024. Richard Saunders coming to you from the We Can Reason. Kat, you would agree, we can reason?
We can absolutely reason.
Adrienne, can we reason?
I'm trying to be reasonable.
Yes, here in Calgary, Canada. Coming up on today's episode, I must admit, some skullduggery went on for Kat here, where Adrienne and I pulled a Swiftie on her. We pretended we were doing just this Kat and Allie segment, but it was all lined up to make you a reporter. And people will hear your reaction coming up.
No!
Oh, yes.
I thought the reaction was wonderful.
Look forward to that. It's a really fun, wonderful thing. Also on this week's show, the book of Tim. Tim goes to Armidale to open the new Skeptics in the Pub in Armidale. Adrienne returns with Adrienne as interpreted by artificial intelligence, which is a lot of fun. And of course, we have the Trove segment this week looking at classic newspaper clips regarding Uri Geller, including a clip from Florida radio, you see I stuff up too, with James Randi, which I'd never heard before, which a listener sent in to me, but more about that later on. But now it's time for us to sit down, Adrienne.
It is, and Kat is going to speak.
The next speaker is Kat herself, up there on the stage. While we do that, we all hope that you enjoy
the Skeptic Zone.
It's the Loons from Canada. Here's Kate and Allie.
Hi everyone, it's Kate and Allie coming to you from Sandman Studios in downtown Calgary. And we are here for the We Can Reason conference. Hey Kate.
Hi Allie, how are you?
Tired.
Me too. I saw your great video from the LA Skepticamp. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. And you know, listeners, you can find it at the link in the show notes. And it was about ghosts, one of my favorite things. And it's called Not a Ghost of a Chance. And it's all about spirit and ghost photography and a little bit about a ghost story from when I was a kid. I spent the morning going to pick up Jonathan Jarry in Banff. It was a beautiful drive, and I convinced Richard to come along, and I think he enjoyed it a lot. And we picked Jonathan Jarry up, brought him here, and I've been organizing and getting ready for this conference ever since. And what have you been up to?
Well, my sister and I had the long drive in from Edmonton, and then we joined the Skeptics in the Pub for the We Can Reason conference, and we had some trivia, and I'm already losing my voice, just in time for my talk tomorrow.
A few days ago, I went to Banff again to meet up with Jonathan Jarry to go on a hike, and I recorded this interview at Johnston Canyon. Well, I have here Jonathan Jarry.
That is me.
Yes. And we are right now, where are we?
Johnston Canyon.
In
Banff. Is it in Banff? Was it outside of Banff?
It's just outside Banff National Park.
It is peri-Banff. It is around Banff.
It is.
This was a hike that I was hoping to do last year when I first came to Banff on vacation. I was not able to come, and now, thankfully, because of Adrienne, we just completed the whole hike, and it's snowing.
It is.
It is snow. It's almost May, and it's snowing. So
and we
go.
were very happy that the railings were so skookum.
Yes.
You learned about
I
skookum.
learned a new word. And thank goodness for those railings because, it got very slippery.
Yeah, there's a lot of ice still on the trail.
There is. I got to practice my balance. Your dancing background from years ago came back. It's like you were possessed by your former ballet self. But it was very nice. It was beautiful, and fun was had by all, and nobody was injured.
Exactly. We made it down, at least until we get to the parking lot. We're almost at the parking lot.
It could turn into the Blair Witch Project. I mean, they might find your cell phone and be like, this is the last recording that we have of them.
Yes.
Never found the bodies. We don't know what happened to them. Maybe the chipmunks took them away.
Oh, and we saw lots of chipmunks.
We saw a lot of chipmunks.
Yeah.
They were very fast.
Yeah.
Just going around on the cliffside. Beautiful creatures.
Yeah, and great. The waterfalls look beautiful, but mostly frozen still.
Mostly frozen. It was like a miracle. It was like, what was it, Sir Francis Collins, who had his conversion to Christianity when he saw a frozen waterfall. That could have been us.
There we go. It was beautiful.
It was amazing.
It was
Thank
amazing.
You so much.
And we look forward to your talk this weekend at Week in Reason.
I also look forward to my talk. It'll be over.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
I think it's really important for skeptics to get together and to have a community where you can socialize. And I believe that Tim is going to have a segment about this later on in the show.
I believe that's right.
All right, so the next part is an announcement, in fact. Mm-hmm. And we'd like to announce... is that recording your handover thing? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, okay. And we'd like to announce that our brand new official reporter is Kat McLeod. Congratulations.
Thank you! Oh my God!
And your segment is going to be called For Crying Out Loud, It's Kat McLeod.
I love it! Oh my gosh! Oh, thank you so much!
Well, you
Where the hell's my sister?
You've earned it. You've done great reports for the show, just off your own bat and help Adrienne.
Oh my God.
So now you get your own
I'm just
segment.
riding coattails.
Yeah.
I'm going to make her shorter because I'm riding her coattails so much.
She's been keeping the secret.
You
was so
guys! Now I got to get clicker trained properly. Cats can't be
You
trained.
get your own theme too.
No.
Yeah,
Have you
it'll
finished
come
it
next
yet?
week. It'll
Okay.
come next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have an inkling where he's going. I think as long as he keeps going in that direction, it's going to be so fun.
Well, it'll be fun.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
And that's the end of Kate and Allie with the surprise ending. But thank you very much, Kate and Allie, Adrienne and Kat, and welcome Kat to the show.
Thank you so much.
Oops, I should have. This is not my job.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, was a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon who wrote about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet produced a free online course of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting tinyurl.com/skepdoc series. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that is sure to educate and entertain. Find it at tinyurl.com/skepdoc series.
And now, a reading from the Book of Tim. with Tim Mendham.
Hi, this is Tim Mendham. I'm the editor of the Australian Skeptics journal, The Skeptic, and Executive Officer of Australian Skeptics Inc. And I won't be giving you a book of Tim today. I'll be giving you the cassette tape of Tim, in which I have an interview with Amelia Willmer. Now, Amelia Willmer has started a group in the northern New South Wales town of Armidale, which is in the New England area. It's up in the highest point of the state, in a town which is a mixture of farming communities and a University of New England, which makes an interesting mix. I'll be talking to Amelia both before and after the event to see how it goes against her plans. But it certainly was an interesting experience, and I had the honour, if you like, of helping to launch it. So I went up there for the day. The first speaker was someone named Alan Scott, who's a professor of sociology at the university, and he gave a really dynamic and interesting presentation on the strongman in politics, looking at national leaders of a certain character, a certain type, who like to lead in a, let's say, more dynamic way than most democratically elected leaders might do it. It was certainly interesting, and it elicited quite a lot of conversation afterwards from an audience that was sort of, a lot of them came from the university, so they were pretty eloquent in what they had to say. So here's me talking with Amelia Willmer on the launch of Armidate Skeptics in the pub. Here I am in sunny Armidale, in the northern areas of New South Wales, and I'm talking with Amelia Willmer, who is the convener, founder, all things good for the new Armidate Skeptics in the pub. Now, Amelia, what brought you to Armidale for a start?
Well, we had to give up being on the farm because we're getting too old. We're in that demographic on the bell curve where you start to need to be closer to hospitals and doctors, and living in a remote area is not conducive to that. So, yeah, we picked Armidale, selected it because it's a beautiful small city with a vibrant university culture, beautiful conservatorium, fantastic art scene. I'm an oil painter, and it just is a really lovely place to live.
Okay. Now, what made you set up a Skeptics in the pub in this area?
Well, one of the criteria that we had when we were choosing a new city, it was one of them on the spreadsheet, and Armidale unfortunately didn't have one. So I thought, well, let's jump off the cliff here and start our own. Take the leap, do it. And luckily I contacted Tim, and he was a mine of information and support. Also Paulie up on the Gold Coast, she was fantastic. She really encouraged me and gave me good advice about how to go about it. And it's been a remarkably smooth process because as I've gone around town and spoken to people in just in an ordinary everyday to-day contacts, as soon as you mention, I'm thinking of starting Skeptics in the pub, their eyes lit up and said, what a good idea. And I thought, well, with that kind of feedback and being new to town, why not go with it? Take the leap of faith and try and get it up and running.
Is it very hard to set up something like that?
The hardest part is getting the venue. I approached just about every pub and club in town and got the knockback all the time because they were wanting to charge for it. And obviously as a community-based or a volunteer group, we don't have funds. But we were really lucky to find one publican, a young dynamic guy, Brendan, who jumped at the chance and felt some synergy with what we were doing. So yeah, once we located the venue, everything else just started falling into place. From my point of view, I have a strong journalism background, Walkely Award winner in '89, and a lot of newspaper experience. So I've been able to use that in my corporate communication skills to help promote it, and just dragoon Tim to come up from Sydney and do the official launch, which has gained great media coverage. Had him on radio, ABC this morning, and it gives the group gravitas, it gives us credibility. It makes people feel confident that they're going to come and have a good night and hear a competent speaker, someone who's passionate and knowledgeable about what their subject is. Yeah, so it's all fallen nicely into place, and I'm not losing any sleep over it anymore like I did in the first few weeks when it was quite nerve-wracking.
Now, you're drawing your speakers from the university. That's a primary source of talent.
It is one source, but I've got to be careful that we spread this out because scepticism belongs to us all. Male, female, young, old. Really want it to be an intergenerational meeting. I hope it's not just a bunch of, old blokes whinging. We want young people, we want women there. It needs to appeal across a whole range of subjects, not just all academic. The medical world, the pseudoscience involved in medicine and homeopathy and all those shonky things that go on in our lives. The way we, even things like, when should your kid have a mobile phone? What's science telling us about what's happening to them psychologically? At what age is the best? I'm sure parents all around Armidale would be interested in something like that. There's even a thing about fashion. Like, we think we're being sensible when we go to second-hand shops and recycle clothes. But did you know that probably 90% of the clothes that are donated to Vinnie's and Lifeline end up getting incinerated in third world countries? And the people who do the incinerating are exposed to toxic chemicals while they're doing it. So there's issues, everyday life, really, the kitchen sink, everything is open to sceptical query. And my biggest task will be finding, month by month, really good speakers who, as I said, are passionate and knowledgeable about their subject and can engage with people at that level.
Okay, and this is the first one. This is your premier event coming up tonight.
Which is why you're here, Tim. You're the star.
Hardly. And what do you hope to get out of it?
What I hope to get out of tonight is I want to see a bunch of people animated and engaged after our speaker's finished. Professor Alan Scott is going to talk about the strong man in human politics, and he'll reference Putin, Modi, obviously Donald Trump, the whole issue of the strong man in human society that goes back right throughout human history. I want to see, at the end of it, people happily discussing it and maybe expressing really strong opinions and just engaging with it and enjoying the topic.
And enjoying with each other.
And being with each other. Hopefully, friendships being created and a bit of camaraderie.
Okay. What we'll do is I'll talk to you after the event and to see how much that was achieved. Right, that's the acid test, if you like.
Okay.
And so after a few drinks, it might be more interesting to discuss it. So we'll see how that goes.
That's right. Okay, that's a deal.
Okay. Thanks, Amelia.
No worries, Tim.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Australian Skeptics in the Pub in Armidale. That was pretty good.
How did you think it went?
I think, as I expected, I thought about 70 people and I think we had 68. I think the professor's speech resonated with everybody. I was really impressed with the level of questions and debate and the high intellect that we had here. We had a lot of university people here tonight. I thought people got a lot out of it, and it's ticked all my boxes. It shows me that this is definitely a good thing for Armidale.
I think it is, actually. It went down so well. A very interactive audience.
This city has a very high IQ. You've got the university, you've got the conservatorium, you've got a very strong and resilient art scene here. It's a very well-educated city, and I think that resonates with anybody with sceptical thinking, the scientific method, any of the rationalism. This city's made for it.
Yeah, which means that other places are not necessarily so well set up.
Well, I know I wouldn't have had the same success in my former city, where I lived in rural Queensland. It wouldn't have worked. Right. Not to the extent we had tonight. I mean, this was a sellout, really, when you look at it. Initially, we were all saying, we'd be lucky if we get 20 or 30 people, but to get nearly, how many? 68, nearly 70 people. And the debate was robust. There was a good bit of argy-bargy, and that's healthy, lovely. And it was intelligent. There was no name-calling or silliness, but it was really people thinking, using their brains. And I think Alan Scott, as our first speaker, was exceptional. He's such a highly credentialed man as a professor. and he knew his subject backwards.
Good to get a high-quality speaker.
Absolutely.
That's an important draw card.
Now, see, that's going to be my challenge forever now. I think I've got the next 3 lined up at that level, but from there on in, the challenge will always be to get a topic that is going to appeal to people to want to come out to the pub and talk passionately about it, and someone who actually has the knowledge and authority to speak knowledgeably about it.
Yeah, that's the high-level draw card, but after a while, when you build up the community, that becomes a draw card in its own right.
Well, it's interesting. People came and approached me after this meeting. One is from the ABC, Friends of the ABC. They're doing a discussion on artificial intelligence, and he wants to liaise with me on that so that we don't detract from his meeting with our dates. And could he possibly promote it here at Skeptics? But I'll make sure now we follow up with publicity. We had excellent publicity, and a lot of that too, Tim, is because you were here. I told you that was important. It gives it gravitas, it gives it credibility. Without that official opening and you coming up from Sydney, it would not have been so noteworthy. We wouldn't have got the ABC radio interview. We would not have got the level of publicity we got. But now that we're launched and people can see that we're a credible social thing, I'll make sure that the speakers we've got have got to be the people that are attracted to.
Well, I think you started off on the very best foot. So well done.
Well, thank you, Tim, because I lost sleep over this at the beginning. I thought, what the hell am I doing? And then I thought, well, if you don't put yourself out there and try in life, what's the point? So it's a good thing to do. So thanks very much.
Are you looking for a science-based medical podcast to answer all your questions about health? Check out The Body of Evidence. Whether you're curious about the potential benefits of omega-3s or the potential risks of vaping, we take a look at the body of evidence to separate the noise, the hype, the lies from actual scientific rigor. We do it with comedy skits.
The only logical thing to do is for me to take off all my clothes and run into the street. No, remember the first rule of podcasting. Always keep your pants on.
With jingles.
Some are thrilled, some are not. You'll lose that hair if you stop propitiation.
And by, discussing what the evidence has to say on the topic at hand.
Orlistat is a pill, but yeah, it has the side effects of bloating, gas, and greasy stool, which makes it very unpleasant.
The Body of Evidence. Find it at bodyofevidence.ca or on your favorite podcast app. The Body of Evidence. Medicine that tastes funny and science made easy.
You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill.
Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill reporting from Skepticamp Studios in Calgary, Canada. And I get to do a little bit like Richard did last week, where he asked Meta AI to write something in the style of Richard Saunders. So this week, Richard wrote, quote, "Write a short report in the style of Adrienne Hill from the Skeptic Zone podcast," end quote. And the response was pretty amazing, and it seems to know me just a little too well. Here we go. Greetings, skeptics. Adrienne Hill here, reporting from the Great White North, where the maple syrup flows like, well, syrup. But beware, dear skeptics, for Canada is also home to some of the most bizarre and bewildering creatures you'll ever encounter. I'm not talking about the moose or the beavers. Oh no. I'm talking about the Ogopogo, a serpent-like sea monster said to lurk in the depths of Lake Okanagan. Or the Wendigo, a terrifying cannibalistic spirit from Algonquin folklore. And let's not forget the Sasquatch, the elusive hairy giant said to roam the forests of British Columbia. But fear not, dear skeptics, For these creatures are likely nothing more than the product of overactive imaginations and a healthy dose of confirmation bias. After all, as skeptics, we know that the truth is often far more mundane than the tales we tell. So if you're planning a trip to Canada, be sure to pack your critical thinking skills along with your toque and your Tim Hortons coffee. And remember, just because something is strange doesn't mean it's supernatural. Happy skepticism, everyone! And then it made a little note at the end. And this is the part that I found a little bit... It's cool, but it's also a little creepy. Note, the Skeptic Zone podcast is a real podcast. And Adrienne Hill is one of the hosts. Seems I got a promotion. The style of the report is inspired by her skeptical and humorous approach to reporting on paranormal claims. So after Richard did this, I thought I would give it a try. What I asked Meta AI to do was to write a short report about being a skeptic talking about homeopathy in the style of someone from Newfoundland. And this is what it gave me. And I apologize in advance to anybody living in Newfoundland. I love the lilt of your language, and I am not going to do it justice. So here we go. Bye. Let me tell ya, I got a bone to pick with this homeopathy business. It's a skeptic from the rock, I gotta say. It's a whole lot of hooey. They're telling me that water can remember what's been in it before, and that's gonna cure what ails me? Give me a break, buys. I mean, I've seen some wild things in the day, but this homeopathy malarkey takes the cake. They're talking about diluting substances down to nothing and then expecting it to come sort of magical effect. That's just a bunch of codswallop, if you ask me. And don't even get me started on the like cures like business. So, if I got a headache, I should take a tiny bit of something that will give me a headache? That's just plain old foolishness, by. Now, I know some folks swear by it, but I gotta call it like I see it. Homeopathy's a bunch of hokum, and I wouldn't trust it to cure a case of the sniffles, let alone anything serious. So if you're looking for a cure, keep looking. Buys, 'cause homeopathy ain't it. Well, that was certainly fun to do, and while I was pretty amazed at what it did under Richard's script, I don't think the Newfoundland one, it was fun, but I don't think I have to worry about my job, at least not in the near future. Hope you enjoyed it. And that's a wrap for now from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada.
Hello, this is Maynard. Did you know that you could listen to the Skeptic Zone on YouTube? Yes, I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Also, you can hear 40 logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma and funny sketches with Richard Saunders and a host of other skeptics. Just click on the YouTube links on the homepage at skepticzone.tv.
Time to go back to Trove and other resources anywhere there's old newspapers behind the couch, maybe, to look for references to items that might interest skeptics and the scientific community. What can we learn from the past decades, even centuries, when people were investigating the paranormal, the supernatural, and mysteries? I think one of the most important lessons we learn, of course, is despite all these reports, these investigations, these writings, columns, whatever, about psychic goings-on or predictions or UFOs or Yetis or monsters, here we are in 2024, and none of these things has come to fruition. None. Zero. Zip. Nothing. That's a very important lesson we can learn, or it's obvious. You know, we read about these things for decades and decades and decades. No ghosts. There's still no ghosts has been proven to exist. No Bigfoots have been proven to exist. No psychic powers. Astrology still doesn't work. Homeopathy. Could it be that skeptics were on the right track? So far, it does appear that way. But it is so important to go back and see what people were thinking at the time. What were they thinking, for example, in 1977 on the 11th of October, as written in the Sydney Morning Herald? 5 psychologists at Sydney University have twice invited Uri Geller to take part in experiments which they claim could conclusively establish whether he has psychic powers. One of the psychologists, Andrew Heder, now repeats, the public challenge. And public challenge is in huge letters on the page. And Andrew Heder must have been a little bit unhappy because they spelt his name wrong. It happens to this very day. Prominent scientists writing in major scientific journals have claimed to have validated the alleged psychic powers of Uri Geller. Despite such claims, the consensus of scientific opinion is that the available evidence does not, in fact, establish Uri Geller as a psychic, but is quite consistent with the view that he is a clever magician. A critical review of the published reports of the Geller experiments at King's College and Birkbeck College in England and the Stanford Research Institute in the United States reveals, in our view, a variety of significant flaws: sloppy controls, misrepresentations, important omissions, and inadequate apparatus. The effects of Uri Geller demonstrated in those experiments, in quotation marks, could have been achieved by trickery. Science requires that there be no possibility of trickery in tests of the paranormal. It may be objected that scientists seem to start with the assumption that Uri Geller uses trickery and then proceed to find loopholes in whatever tests might be conducted. However, open-minded scientists will accept evidence as long as the experimental controls are rigorous, the report is complete and accurate, and the results can be repeated. One may ask whether it is possible to design experiments suitable for testing Uri Geller. In fact, adequate tests have been set up by a research team at the University of Sydney. These tests have been meticulously designed to eliminate completely all possibility of trickery, drawing on the lessons learned from previous attempts overseas. They could validate Uri Geller once and for all, provided he really has psychic powers. Let me quickly break in here and say that's fascinating. I would love to know what sort of tests they were thinking about and whether or not they had magicians advising them. We read on. Uri Geller has declined to take part in these experiments during his Australian tour in 1975. He has been invited, but his representatives in Australia have stated that he will not be available to meet the Sydney University scientists during his current visit. Interestingly, Uri Geller notes in his autobiography that he, quote, is prepared to take part in any genuine scientific experiment, end quote. If Uri Geller was a psychic, he would present a serious challenge to science. But when will he accept a serious challenge by science? And I don't see a byline, so I don't know who wrote that report. And now here's something a little bit different, and thank you to Michael Goff, who sent me this clip, and this comes from the 4th of December 2002 as broadcast on Real Radio WTKS 104.1 FM in Orlando, Florida. And this was an interview with James Randi And in this section, he talks about the first time he encountered Uri Geller.
The way he came to my attention was that Time magazine called me and said, this guy's going to come into our office here, and we're going to interview him. And he said specifically, no magicians. Well, he won't know you as a magician. He's from Israel, and at that time I wasn't that well known at all. This is 1972. So I went in there and posed as a reporter, and Geller went through his whole routine. I sat there making notes, and I was sitting looking over his shoulder, which he didn't like very much. And at one point, a fork appeared to have bent, and he turned to me and he said, "Did you see that?" And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "Yes, Mr. Geller, I did see that." And he looked at me with a look which would have just fried my eyes if I weren't wearing dark glasses. And after he left the office, I replicated all the stuff he had done and showed them exactly what had happened.
Right.
Some of them had already seen it, so they weren't exactly new to it. They knew what he was doing, and they had caught him at it. But he got a very negative write-up in Time magazine, and I naively thought, well, that'll probably be the end of him. Wrong!
Again, that was from Real Radio, WTKS 104.1 FM in Orlando, Florida. Courtesy, and with many thanks, to Michael Goff. And now here is an advertisement from the Daily Telegraph from Sydney, Australia, dated Friday the 7th of March, 1975. And this is on the section, or in the section of the paper devoted to entertainment. And on the same page as the advertisement, I will read you in a moment, we have a large notice here. Special premiere encore engagement. Enter once again a whole new world of magnificent musical entertainment. Richard Harris, Vanessa Redgrave, Frank Nero, David Hemmings, Lionel Jeffries. Camelot. Now showing in the magic of 70mm. What else do we have showing at the same time? Roger Moore, The Man with the Golden Gun. The French Connection. An encore performance or a rescreening of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. The Odessa File. Or you could have enjoyed movies such as Chinatown, Airport 1975, Earthquake, Carry On Girls, The Sting. Or if that wasn't your thing, how about The Osmonds, live in concert? So that was some of the entertainment on offer in 1975, including the following: Uri Geller, Mindbender. Patrons attending Uri's performance, wherever they are seated, will witness his every movement through strategically placed TV receivers around the hall. This is closed circuit and will not be relayed outside the hall. Sydney Town Hall, tonight and next Sunday at 8:15 p.m. Good seats on sale at the door from 7. Prices: $6, $5, $4. Bookings open now. At Mitchell's, Wynyard and Bankstown Town Hall, Grace Brothers, Chatswood, Roselands and Bondi Junction, and DJs. Note, Capacity House is expected, so book now. For party concessions, phone 298-335. Students rush $2.80, 15 min before start of shows. Flying Japan Airlines, Ansett Airlines of Australia. And that advertisement is right next door to erotic adult films. For more information, call at the Ecstasy Centre, 232 Liverpool Street, Darlinghurst. Continuous from 10 a.m. 7 days per week. Ladies, welcome. So this was during Uri Geller's 1975 tour of Australia, and he ended up as part of his tour in Melbourne. So on the 20th of March 1975, in the pages of the Age newspaper, we have the following by John Lewis. I'm no magician, he says, putting a curve into a few bunches of keys. Uri goes on an airport bender. And the accompanying photograph is Uri Geller with a young lady. It says, Uri Geller with Ansett hostess Leslie Thomas and a spoon he bent on the flight from Sydney. Of course magicians can reproduce the things I do. They can do them on stage using tricks, but not in laboratory conditions. Uri Geller started bending things as soon as he boarded his jet in Sydney yesterday morning. For openers, he bent one of the hostess's wings. Then he reported later, he wandered into the cockpit and confused one of the clocks. Now, a big mention here from me, a big thing that occurred to me many years ago. Oh, maybe in the vicinity of 20 years ago, I was in the audience here for a show called Mornings with Carrie Kennelly. Morning chat show filmed in Sydney, videoed in Sydney, broadcast from Sydney. And her special guest on the day was John Edward. And I can only imagine that it was during a commercial break, because it's not on the part that went to air. John Edward mentioned that when he was flying, he just flew in from the States. For some reason, electronics would go haywire, or the TVs wouldn't work, or static, or something. He would affect the plane in some fashion. And here Geller claims he wandered into the cockpit and confused one of the clocks. If this were true, if there were people who could interfere with the systems of an airliner, then why on earth would they be permitted to fly? It's obvious, and as soon as people make these sort of claims, you know it's only for publicity. It can't be a reality. We read on. Within minutes of arriving in Melbourne, Geller effortlessly bent a whole press conference around his long and supple fingers. Then, nicely warmed up, he turned to the serious business of the morning and bent 4 keys, 1 spoon, and gave an old lady's wristwatch new hope. Geller was certainly responsible for the bent keys and the spoon, and a few desultory tricks of the old watch. Now, it's a word I didn't know before, desultory. Definition, lacking a plan, purpose, or enthusiasm. Okay then. The only question was whether it was through the agency of surreal forces, which he professes not to understand beyond some far-out unbelievable theories, or by good old-fashioned muscle concealed by a magician's skill. The question makes him angry. He made sharp comments about magicians and scientists who criticized him. If they didn't believe, then that was their problem, he said. Of course magicians can reproduce things I do. They can do them on the stage using tricks, but not in laboratory conditions, he said. He offered to bend some keys. A number of keys were offered. He took one, then suddenly migrated to the other end of the press room. In the rush that followed, he chose a corner with the owner of the key and sat on the floor. Through his fingers that held the key and the other hand, which stroked the key, it quickly became clear that the key had bent very sharply. Some of the watchers said they could see the end of the key moving. And of course a note from me to say that's exactly how the trick works. And whenever I do something similar, of course people say they can see the end of the spoon or the key moving. As he flourished the radically deformed key, a television cameraman took his keys from his pocket and found one of them bent. Geller allowed him to hold it and took the other end. He stroked it, and the key later seemed more sharply crooked than when he started. Now, as for the key in the pocket of the cameraman becoming bent, we could only surmise what really happened. Was this indeed what happened? Was it bent? Was it a setup? Was it a misreporting? We simply don't know, but there are many ways to do this trick, of course. 2 other people announced they had found bent keys in their pockets. The watch took longer. He sat with it in his hand during interviews for some minutes before producing it. It doesn't seem to be going, he said, holding it aloft. Then, oh yes, it's going. The watch was going, but stopped almost immediately. It was handed to its owner. Well, there we go. There's some references from history, including a wonderful clip from James Randi regarding Uri Geller, who is still, to this very day, bending the spoons, shall we say. But you too can go on a bender of sorts, a information bender, when you visit Trove and other references. In fact, that last piece I read you from The Age that was recovered from the microfilm from the State Library of New South Wales after doing an online search. It came up with that date, the newspaper and the date. Then it was just a matter of me scrolling through the pages, the paper, and finding the article, which now rests safely in my digital archives. And as I keep discovering week after week, when you go to Trove, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. I've stepped out here on the street away from the conference while the lunch break is on. Downtown Calgary, I'm on 8th Avenue, and there's an icy blast of the last bits of winter, I guess. And congratulations once again to Kat McLeod, and thank you all for indulging me this episode. It's always a bit of an interesting process to put together a podcast when you're on the run. But I hope you enjoyed that surprise for Kat McLeod, and we certainly look forward to her reports coming up in the future. Thank you to those people who subscribe to the Skeptic Zone or donate via Patreon or PayPal at skepticzone.tv. Your contributions mean there are more episodes to come. And thank you to Adrienne Hill for hosting me, together with the Week in Reason conference here in beautiful Calgary, Alberta. Coming up on next week's show, probably more bits and pieces from this trip. We're going to the Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum tomorrow, can't wait for that. And in the Trove segment, I think we're going to be looking at predicting the future, another classic topic of skepticism. But for this week, as the Saturday traffic rolls by, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Dice game 813. All right. Hello, Kate and Allie. Look at this. That is a box of dice. That's the whole box of dice.
I saw that. I got to see them. You got to see them via video.
I did.
Yeah.
So we're going to play the dice game here in Calgary, Canada. We've got so many dice here.
I'm not doing those lilac ones again.
Is that a D10? Yes, it is.
It is a D10.
Oh.
Don't ask me to count because you can't count on
You
Adrienne.
can't count. All right. So we're going to roll a D10 3 times.
Okay.
Maybe 4. I'm going to choose for the first roll. If you haven't heard of this section of the show, folks, this is where we roll a dice and you use your psychic, magic, mental powers, or dumb luck, to guess what number's coming. I'm going to guess from 1 to 10, 4.
Oh, I was going to guess 4 too.
I was going to guess 4.
Okay, here it comes. It better be 4.
We're sharing one brain.
Oh, it's 10. It's 10.
No, it's 0.
It's 10. All right, second roll. I'm going to guess 5.
6.
7.
I liked how we were counting.
It's gone.
I love how it went under the sofa.
It's gone under the sofa.
Or did it go under the coffee table?
I thought it went under the coffee table.
No, I got it. I got it. I have not moved it.
7.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
It's my lucky night.
And I'm going to choose 9.
I'm going to choose 10 or 0.
2.
Oh, Richard got 9.
No, it's a 6.
It's a 6.
It's a 6.
So you can't count on Adrienne.
That's For this,
Adrienne may have had a little drink.
all right. For the supplementary, I'm going to use a D20.
Yeah. Oh, you're using the lilac ones. Well, good luck.
Well,
It's
I'll choose
okay. It's okay. You
How
can use
about an orange one?
An orange one is
All
better.
Okay.
Yes.
A D20, I'll say 18.
6.
19. 8.
Well, that sucks.
Well, that's terrible. These dice don't work. I want my money back.
You could use the lilac one. It probably would give you what you wanted, but we did not have any luck with the lilac.
No.
He got one
I got
when
one.
we were rolling
I
lilac.
did guess one last week. That's true.
And you did.
Yeah.
Guess psychic power. Thank you.
Psychic powers.